July 8th, 2017, Yankee Stadium. Clint Frazier, the 22-year-old phenom with bright red hair and ridiculous bat speed, stepped up to the plate against Milwaukee closer Corey Knebel, one of the best relievers in baseball at the time. Frazier didn't disappoint, crushing a 97-mile-per-hour fastball into the right field bleachers. The Yankees won 5-3 on the walk-off dinger. The stadium exploded. Teammates mobbed him at home plate and doused him with any beverage they could find. Gary Sanchez, then only a year removed from his own signature first campaign, was positively beaming. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The future Yankee great had announced himself to the Big Apple, and with a prospect resume like few others, it seemed like only the first of many instances just like this. 7 years later, Frazier retired at 29 years old, after spending the summer in independent ball. Today, he runs a podcast. And what came down to a concoction of horrible medical luck, questionable organizational decisions, and over a half-decade of subpar play, the superstar-to-be became the can't-miss that did, and what will go down as one of the most tragic career trajectories in recent New York Yankee history. However, it wasn't even the Yankees that had originally drafted Clint. Instead, it was Cleveland that took him 5th overall in the 2013 class out of Loganville High School in Georgia. It was well known the kid could absolutely rake. His senior year, he hit .485 with 17 homers. Gatorade named him National Baseball Player of the Year, certifying him as the best high school player in America. Then Indians, now Guardians, scouting director Brad Grant raved about the pick. Frazier had a loose, whippy swing with tremendous raw power. He could drive balls to all fields, but what stood out most was the bat speed. It's a special swing, one you don't see very often in a high school player, Grant told reporters. The Indians gave him $3.5 million to sign instead of going to Georgia. Over the next 4 seasons, he proceeded to post a near 800 OPS every single year, despite consistently being younger than his peers. By mid-2016, he was at AAA, just short of the majors. But he would never get a chance to take an at-bat for the eventual American League champions, because as the deadline neared, he would be moving on to a new squad entirely. Cleveland president Chris Antonetti knew what they were giving up when they traded who was, by then, their top overall prospect to the Yankees in 2016 as part of the deal for Andrew Miller. There was a pit in your stomach, because we were trading a really good player. GM Brian Cashman was blunt about what they'd acquired. An electric bat, Cashman told reporters. His bat speed is already legendary. A very exciting, high-energy guy that shows up for the national anthem in a dirty uniform. It really felt like the Yankees' future left fielder was less than a year away. Frazier put up solid numbers in AAA in 2017, hitting .256 with 12 homers in 74 games with a near .500 slug. Impressive numbers for a then 22-year-old. This showed enough to get him the green light to be called up for his first big league stint in July 2017, making his MLB debut against the Astros. In his first at-bat, he doubled. In his second, he launched a solo homer. First career extra base hit and first career homer in the same game? Not too shabby. After the contest, Frazier talked about what it meant. My parents are my role models, and my dad is my hero, Clint said. For me to go out there and have this kind of first game for him is really special for the whole Frazier family. The moment that seemingly signified the arrival of another Yankee superstar came a week later, that walk-off homer against Milwaukee. Here's a stat that most people don't know. In that same game, Frazier hit a triple before the walk-off homer. That made him the first Yankee with a triple and walk-off homer in the same game since Babe Ruth on August 18, 1922. In his first month, he had accomplished something not approached by a fellow pinstriper in nearly 100 years. Insane. And he wasn't done. By his 15th career game, he had 9 extra base hits. Only one other Yankee ever did that. Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. Future Rookie of the Year Aaron Judge was certainly all in on his new teammate. As a player, man, he's a total package, Judge told reporters. He's got speed, he's got power, he can play any outfield position. It's fun to watch a guy like that. On July 19th, Frazier changed his jersey number from 30 to 77. He wanted to match with Judge, who wore 99 in right field. The parallels were obvious. 2 young power hitters who could anchor the lineup for a decade, finishing neck and neck for playoff series MVP honors. But the rest of his season didn't quite go according to plan. He dealt with an oblique strain that limited him to just 12 games played from August on. In that small sample, he didn't record a single homer or RBI, batting around 150 with an OPS just over 500. He struck out 17 times and 45 ABs. Abysmal stuff. He finished his rookie year hitting .231 with 4 homers in 39 games. Not huge numbers, but after that encouraging first month, it was clear the potential was there to be an impact player at the big league level. Then, February 2018 happened, setting off a downward spiral that would change the trajectory of Frazier's entire career going forward. It was spring training, a Grapefruit League game at Bradenton, Florida. Red Thunder was tracking down a fly ball in left field and ran full speed towards the wall. It didn't matter that it was spring. I play as hard as I can, Frazier had said. I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to be afraid to run into a wall to catch a ball. I'm going to dive for a ball. I'm going to try to make a play at all times. At the last second, he looked up. Too late. His head smashed into the fence, and he went down. When he got up, The world was spinning. The trainers took him out of the game. The initial diagnosis? A severe concussion. The symptoms were brutal. His depth perception was gone, and he would deal with bouts of feeling out of his body at the plate. An everyday hangover that was a constant factor. Years later, Frazier described what those days felt like. I was scared, he told reporters. There were times I'd be driving, like I was on autopilot. I'd look around and think, how did I get here? He compared it to being drugged, like somebody slipped something in my drink. That's what this type of concussion does. Your brain doesn't really process reality the same way. Here's what people don't understand about vision problems for hitters. The best hitters, generally, are the ones that have the best eyesight. You need to recognize a pitch in the first 15 feet out of the pitcher's hand, fastball or breaking ball, up or down, less than half a second to decide. When your vision is blurry and your depth perception is shot, you're guessing. And you can't guess in the MLB. You can't see spin the same way. If you can't tell it's a fastball or slider, it's already too late. Frazier had elite bat speed early on. He could crush mistakes. But when you can't recognize pitch types, you can't hunt those mistakes. You're just trying to survive. He didn't return until May 15th, nearly 3 months after the collision. 3 months of doctor visits, therapy sessions, and vision tests, waking up every day hoping this would be the day that he felt normal. It never really was. After a short rehab stint at AAA, the Yankees called him up in July and gave him 15 games. He would hit .265 with 1 homer and 43 plate appearances. The numbers looked okay on paper, but he frequently was struggling pitch to pitch. They sent him back down. The shuttle between New York and Scranton had begun. The 2019 season was more of the same, up and down between AAA and the Bronx. His defense was a disaster. He missed red fly balls, took bad angles, and overall posted one of the worst fielding run values in the game at -8, despite only appearing in 69 contests. His hitting was certainly better than this, with him finishing with a .267 average, .806 OPS, and 12 homers in that limited sample. Solid enough, you would have thought, to get him at least a little run as the year went on. Perhaps even seeing him get some games at first base where the team had no projected long-term answer. But the Yankees never fully committed. Brett Gardner kept getting starts in big games. So did journeyman Mike Ford. Frazier, meanwhile, stayed in limbo. Then came 2020. COVID shortened the season to 60 games. Everything was on the line. Frazier got his chance, and, for a moment, seized it. He played in 39 games and raked, hitting .267 with 8 homers, 26 RBIs, and a .905 OPS. He looked healthy and confident. The bat was alive again. The vision problems certainly seemed more manageable, as evidenced by his sky-high 15.6% walk rate, almost 10% more than the prior year. The Yankees had finally given him a real shot, and he was producing. The pinnacle was August 15th, 2020, when Frazier went off against the rival Red Sox, tallying 5 RBIs and a 10-3 Yankees win. This prompted his manager, Aaron Boone, to praise him. For the first time since his initial call-up in 2017, he looked like the future star he was once proclaimed to be. Then September came, a game against Toronto. Frazier took another shot to the head running into a wall. He played through it, kept showing up, and kept his mouth shut. Frazier was somewhat trapped. Tell the Yankees about another concussion and risk losing his roster spot, or play through it and hope his brain would heal on its own. He chose to stay quiet. Years later, Frazier admitted what he'd done. I obviously kept certain things to myself in 2020, he told NBC Chicago. They weren't really made aware until I pulled myself from a game in 2021. Frazier entered that season, finally, as the Yankees' named starter in left field. This was supposed to be his breakthrough. Through April, he stayed above water, hitting .234 with 2 homers. Not great, but not outright horrible. Then May hit. His vision problems looked the worst that they ever had been, with him hitting .186 with just 1 dinger. He looked completely lost. He was swinging through way too many pitches, as evidenced by his sky-high 30.1% whiff and 29.8% K rates. June was even worse. He hit .161 with 1 homer. People were starting to notice something was wrong, but Frazier kept saying he was fine. On June 30th, 2021, everything came to a head. Frazier outright pulled himself out of a game, walking right up to manager Aaron Boone and saying he couldn't see right. His head hurt. He was dizzy. This was the first time he admitted something was wrong since ignoring the September 2020 concussion. 9 months of suffering in silence. 9 months of playing with a damaged brain. Sometimes you can just see in somebody, Boone told reporters after the game. He was dealing with some things and not feeling great. That would be the final game Frazier ever would play in a Yankee uniform. He later described those months. I was severely symptomatic with some of those past issues I was having, he said on the Short Porch podcast. I was like, we gotta pick the pace up. I need help. I need serious effing help. He admitted to not revealing his symptoms to the Yankees prior to spring training, saying that they were unaware he was fighting for his life. The stadium lights and crowd noise could impact how he felt on a moment-to-moment basis. He was trapped, suffering in silence. Despite how things ended, Frazier described his relationship with Boone warmly. The text messages him and I would exchange to each other, the way we talked to each other, it was like we weren't just player-manager. We were like, I would say, as much friends as we were allowed to be. He had my back the entire time. On November 19th, New York designated Frazier for assignment. 4 days later, they released him outright. After 5 years, 266 games, and countless trips between New York, Scranton, and the IL, it was over. The Cubs signed him in March 2022, but he lasted just 19 games with them before being released in June, hitting just .216 in that span with underwhelming underlying numbers. Texas gave him a AAA shot 3 weeks later, but after 10 games, they cut him. His last chance would be with the White Sox in 2023. In 33 contests, he hit .197 with 2 homers, before Chicago released him in June. In 2024, the Charleston Dirty Birds of the Atlantic League signed him. Independent ball. The kind of place where careers go to die or get one last shot at resurrection. He played 44 games and hit .258 with 6 homers. Not exactly the kind of production that grabs Major League attention. On July 3rd, 2024, the Dirty Birds announced Red Thunder had retired. No press release, no farewell tour, no explanation. It was simply over. 29 years old. The same age fellow former prospect phenom Bryce Harper won his second MVP. So, what led to the downfall of Clint Frazier's career? Put simply, the concussions. February 2018 started the nightmare. That fence collision gave him symptoms that never seemed to fully go away. Blurry vision, depth perception issues, an everyday hangover. The brain is certainly a unique animal, and doesn't heal like regular body parts. This isn't to absolve him of all responsibility. He certainly had his issues as a ball player. For one, he swung and missed way too much, and 2, was a horrible defender. But it's hard to know if he would have been able to overcome these things with pure power production had he not been impaired. And it's also hard to root out exactly what these head blows didn't affect. For example, years later, he explained what it was like for him as a fielder. I don't know the exact day, but I started to realize in spring training that year that the biggest thing I was noticing was on defense. I would really struggle with depth perception, like really noticing where the ball was at, he said on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast. There emerged a pattern as well with people criticizing him for diving too often, of which he said, when people were all over me for diving, I was just trying to catch the ball. I thought the ball was right here, and it was right there. He never really had a chance. Today, Frazier runs a YouTube channel and hitting instruction program where he live streams Yankee games, breaks down hitting mechanics, and talks about player development and how organizations make decisions. His career stats: a .235 average, 29 homers, 101 RBIs, and a .739 OPS in 280 games over 7 seasons. For many guys, those are impressive numbers. To even make the MLB is a feat, let alone register nearly 30 long balls. But with Clint, it's the what-ifs that kill you. What if he had never hit that fence in February 2018? What if he told somebody about the September 2020 concussion right away? What if the Yankees had taken a more active part in diagnosing his initial symptoms, a pattern that would become evident again a couple years later when Anthony Rizzo suffered for months with a head injury while they just looked on? The answer to all these questions is, I guess, we'll never really know.
Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.